Hello, my name is Rich Whitney, and I'm the president of the Wild Ones chapter called Greater DuPage Wild Ones. Um, Connecting people and native plants for a healthy planet. That's the tagline for the Wild Ones. Oops. Uh, Wild Ones is a national 501c3 charitable organization that works to connect people and native plants for a healthy planet. Wild Ones is based in Wisconsin and is sustained in large part by member dues and donations. Wild Ones, currently, there are 36 states that have chapters. There are 132 chapters, which includes 39 seedlings, which are new chapters in formation, but have not yet met all the requirements to become a fully chartered chapter. All chapters can be found on the national website by using an interactive map, and you can find the closest one to you. Notice on the location map that the greatest concentration seems to be in the Midwest. That's because it all started in Wisconsin and spread from there. Little history. In 1977, a handful of individuals attended a natural landscaping workshop facilitated by Lori Otto at an Audubon workshop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A conservationist and activist, author, and public speaker, Lori Otto, who is pictured here in her yard with her native plants, was instrumental in the banning of the pesticide DDT. Widely recognized as the founder of the National Landscaping Movement, Lori Otto inspired those workshop attendees to action beyond planting native plants in their own gardens. These folks began to refer to themselves as wild ones. And the first chapter sprouted into existence, and it looks like the name stuck. In 1992, the Greater DuPage chapter became the fourth chapter of Wild Ones and the first one outside the state of Wisconsin. And at that time, our name was the Northern Illinois chapter. The nonprofit status of Wild Ones comes from being an educational organization. No matter how much you know, it's surprising that there's always more to learn. I've been a member of Wild Ones for over 30 years, and I'm still learning about native plants. Let's talk about plants in general, not just native plants for now. Plants are the basis of the food web. Remember biology from when you were in school? Plants use photosynthesis to make their food and grow. Plants take in carbon dioxide and water, then use sunlight to produce glucose, which they retain, and oxygen, which is released to the atmosphere. Plants are eaten by animals, primarily insects, and the animals that eat plants are eaten by other animals, and this is basically the food web. Insects are extremely important as a food source to many animals. For example, 96% of terrestrial bird species raise their young by feeding them insects. As it turns out, insects turn to be specialists, feeding on and pollinating a narrow spectrum of plant life, sometimes just a single species. Studying insect populations in Delaware, renowned entomologist Dr. Doug Tallamy reports that 90% of the insects that eat plants can develop and reproduce only on the plants with which they share an evolutionary history. This is called specialization. The monarch butterfly's dependency on milkweed as a larval host plant is well documented and well publicized. No milkweed, no monarchs. While monarch caterpillars can only feed on milkweed, many different insect species visit and pollinate milkweed flowers. If monarch butterflies succumb to extinction, milkweeds will persist. Other insect species will help them reproduce. But there are instances of codependency in nature called symbiosis. It is where both the insect and the plant are mutually dependent for existence. For example, over millions of years, a symbiotic relationship has evolved between yucca plants and yucca moths. Yuccas are the larval host plant of yucca moths. The caterpillars don't eat the plant tissues, they feed exclusively on the seeds. For a yucca flower to produce seeds, it needs to be pollinated, and that act of pollination is performed solely by female yucca moths. So in this case, if either the plant goes into should die out, or the moth should die out, one would follow the other. Reports point to a 60% decline in the size of population of mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians since 1970. And over 1 million species are projected to go extinct in the next 50 years if we do not set aside enough habitat to protect them. Primary global threats to biodiversity are changes in land and sea use, climate change, pollution, the overexploitation of species, and invasive species and disease. Many of these drivers relate to and compound one another. Wild Ones is primarily focused on addressing the degradation and loss of wildlife habitat. Simple examples. Farms replace the prairie with a single species of plant like corn or soybeans. Other land is replaced by suburbs, which plant primarily one single species of plant, and that's lawn grass. Wild Ones focuses on restoring habitat value to landscapes degraded by human activity in urban, suburban, and rural communities. We grow 63,000 square miles of turf in the United States. Pieced together, U.S. lawns would cover an area larger than the state of Georgia. Turf grass is the single largest irrigated crop in the country, and yet we cannot eat it. Lawns are barren monocultures that suck up precious resources. The vast majority of American lawns are ornamental, blanketing corporate campuses and office parks, schools, and churches. Residential streets are lined with cropped cookie cutter yards that people drive past on their way to and from work or school. If the only time you walk on your lawn is when you mow it, it's time to lose some lawn. Let's look at plants again, but this time restricted to native plants. Wild Ones defines a native plant as one belonging to a species that was present in a region, habitat, or ecosystem prior to European settlement. These plants have held an ecological niche in our landscape for thousands of years. Why native plants? Here are some reasons. Landscaping with native plants supports the insects and other animals dependent on them. Pollinators of native plants also pollinate our food crops. Native plants, with their deep roots, are excellent in storing carbon that is taken from the atmosphere. Here are some more reasons. Native plants are well adapted to a region's soils, winds, freeze-thaw cycles, and the whims of Mother Nature. They thrive under natural conditions and tend to do better when neglected by otherwise over-attentive gardeners. Native plants require minimal input. They don't need fertilizer. supplemental water, or significant maintenance once they're established. Native plants' robust and deep root systems mitigate stormwater runoff, reduce erosion, and filter out excess nutrients, heavy metals, and toxins, improving water quality. I want to go over some of the things that the National Wild Ones organization provides. Wild Ones is dedicated to providing practical, educationally sound information on native landscaping, rooted in the belief that native landscaping can be both aesthetically pleasing and ecologically impactful. Our purpose is to equip individuals of all skill levels to start their native garden journey. Wild Ones currently offers over 20 ecoregion specific residential native garden designs for many metropolitan areas across the country, and these can be downloaded for free from National's website. Grants are awarded up to $500 per project to cover the purchase of native plants and seeds for programs that encourage youth in planning, planting, and caring for native plant gardens. This learn by doing approach to education not only gets more native plants in the ground, it cultivates a new generation of mindful land stewards. And if there's any teachers on this presentation that have been thinking about having their students start a native garden at their school, you can apply for a grant to help get you going. Wild Ones national webinars offer expert insights and actionable guidance that contribute to our goal of educating and empowering participants to implement environmentally sound landscape practices. Past recordings of these webinars are available to view for free on the Wild Ones YouTube channel. Those are national webinars. We give our own ones. I'm going to be talking in a minute about what the local chapter provides. The Wild Ones Journal is published quarterly, and it's an electronic publication. It serves as a leading voice in promoting native plants and sustainable landscaping. In addition to the quarterly journal, National sends out monthly e-newsletters that have various information about membership and upcoming events. Wild Ones annual photo contest is held at the close of each summer. Members contribute photos that showcase both how beautiful native plants are throughout the seasons and how they function in landscapes. These images are used in Wild Ones educational and promotional materials, including today's slide presentation. By the way, you can go to the national website and all these resources that I've talked about, you can find out more about them there. That's wildones.org is the web address for the national. Now let's look at what Greater DuPage chapter of Wild Ones provides. Meetings are usually on the third Thursday of the month, January through March, for Zoom sessions, and September and October for in-person sessions. In April, we usually have a potluck dinner along with an informative presentation. We schedule 2 or 3 visits to see native yards during the warmer months. You can see how native plants fit into a home landscape and speak with the homeowner about their experience. We visit local forest preserves to see native plants in their natural surroundings. And I have to give a shout out to the DuPage County Forest Preserve. They have an amazing set of forest preserves all over the county. And we move around and try to get ones in different locations to showcase when they're at their peak for some particular thing, such as spring wildflowers or a summer prairie, that kind of thing. At our annual seed exchange, you can find native seeds that you can't find other places, and they're free. Last November, we had 88 different species of native plants represented at our seed exchange. Our chapter has about 200 members. And just like the diverse environments that we espouse, we are ourselves a diverse group. Because everyone has different interests, we try to provide a variety of experiences to our members. We are always trying to think of new and interesting things. So let us know what you are interested in. And here's some of the things that we do on a regular or semi-regular basis. We don't have plant rescues every year, but we do have them. And that's where you can go to somebody's yard who is moving, or a location that's set for demolition, and dig out plants and take them away. We have on our website, we have places that have native plants you can buy, and all of the spring native plant sales in the area that we know about. So you can pre-order them, or you can go and get them in person. Do you have any skills that could be utilized in support of our chapter? For each of us, our most valuable commodity is our time. With just a minimal amount of time, you could make a difference in our organization. Here are a few activities that we could use some help with. By the way, we have no paid staff. Everything we do is run by volunteers. All our officers and board of directors are all volunteers. And if you don't see anything here, maybe there's an idea that you have. Let me know what it is, and who knows? Maybe you can start a new program or a new thing with us. The annual dues for the Wild Ones is $40 per household. Most of that goes toward national operation, although a smaller portion comes back to our chapter to fund our programs. But here's the thing. We would rather have you as a participant in our activities than not have you at all. If you're not sure you want to join as a dues-paying member, that's perfectly okay. We rarely have any activity that requires membership. Our main goal is to spread the word about native plants. Here's our website address, which is a subsite of the national website, and our email address if you would like to contact us. Now, this meeting, when it was advertised in our newsletter, mentioned that it would include what you could do to help save the planet. I hope you got the point of what a positive effect native plants can have on the environment. Remember the old saying, think globally, but act locally? What you do in your sphere of control may not save the planet on its own, but multiply that by 300 million to understand the effect it could have collectively just in the United States. So I want to conclude with some of my favorite native plants, just to give you suggestions if you don't have any of these plants in your yard. Pick just one, if you will, and find a place to plant it. So here are 5 easy to grow plants and ones that you should know. Butterfly milkweed, the first and possibly most important plant, because it helps save the monarchs. It's a gorgeous color of orange in your garden when it's in bloom. It likes full sun. but it doesn't require a whole day long of sun. The monarch is being just recently, it was in the news, is being proposed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as a not an endangered species, but a threatened species. I find this kind of interesting that they've waited so long to do that because monarchs on our side of the Rockies have declined by 80% in the past 20 years. And in the western side of the Rockies, they've declined by 95%. I think as soon as they get approved to be threatened, they may already be extinct the way the government goes. But anyway, plant to plant, that'll still be beautiful no matter what happens to the monarchs. Here's another one that I really, really like. It's a coneflower. Here there's two different coneflowers. They're prairie plants. They like full sun. They're very hardy and fairly easy to grow. Pollinators of all kinds like them. And okay, the coneflower is a great plant to grow in your yard. It's fairly easy. There's no maintenance required for this plant. Pollinators love it. Insects of all kinds, even birds will visit it for its seed. And in the fall, after it loses all its petals, it still has its stem with that seed head on it. And I leave mine up in the winter. And when it snows, the seed heads get little caps of snow on them and they look cool. So that's why I like it. Columbine is a wonderful plant. Hummingbirds will visit it. And it grows in part shade or part sun. That's a woodland edge plant or an open woodland plant. And there's a lot of varieties out there that are cultivars, but the native one is red. Prairie dropseed is my favorite prairie grass. It doesn't get very tall, but it forms this pincushion appearance with these fountain of grass coming out of it. And when the seeds come out, there's like a spray that grows out, and the seed heads have a very fragrant smell if you brush them with your hand. This likes full sun. Bee balm is my last favorite plant that I'm going to talk about today. Actually, I probably have about 50 favorite plants, but I tried growing this in my yard a number of times, and it didn't seem to persist. And so I gave up. And yet everyone told me how easy it is to grow. Well, one day I noticed I had some growing in my yard, and I don't know how it got there. And I have 3 different small patches of bee balm around my house. And it's kind of fun to notice it in amongst the other plants. I think it's a pretty hardy plant, so I'm recommending it. It's in the mint family. If you crush the leaves, you can smell the mint aroma. And yes, it does attract bees and other pollinators. So please plant native plants. And that's what we're all about, the Wild Ones. Thank you for your attention. And I'm very sorry that my internet connection kept breaking. We'll see what I can do about piecing together 3 different recordings and into one, and we'll put that on our website. Okay, if you have questions, you can unmute yourself and just feel free to ask whatever's on your mind. Anybody?
I had a question. I did join I believe last spring. I paid my dues and I receive, I think I've received a couple emails, but I don't think I'm getting the monthly newsletter or maybe the quarterly either. The quarterly, I take it, is that supposed to be coming to me in the mail or is that
Email.
it's an email? Okay. I'm going to look and see what would be the address I would be receiving it from.
Have you ever gotten anything from National? Uh,
I think for some reason I don't think I'm getting my stuff. So I'm wondering what's my process? Who should I send an email to or who should I reach out to by phone just to get things because I would like to be participating. Um
Send me uh an email
okay. My name's
and
Rebecca Lasky.
and
Okay.
and I'll get the process started. First, when did you join?
It was sometimes last summer. I got excited,
Oh,
just
okay.
going to an event and then I signed and I filled things out. But it could be partially my fault. I didn't, I signed
They-
up and then didn't.
yeah, maybe they're getting trapped in your spam and not getting all the way to you. Because I would have added your name to our email list. And if you're getting my emails or the monthly emails from the Greater DuPage chapter, then at least I've got your name.
Okay.
Uh, and I can follow it up from there to make sure that Wild Ones has the correct email address for you.
That sounds good. Let's do that. That sounds very good. What was your first name?
Rich.
Rich. Okay. Thank you.
Well, that was an easy question.
Yes. Um, so can you review with me also what are the events while we're in winter? What are the meetings and events that will be held in February and March?
Sure. In February, we have a presentation called Life on a Milkweed,
Okay.
and that's about all of the insects that visit the milkweed plant. March 20th is Cindy Crosby speaking about bison tails and tall grass trails. And
Oh,
that's
I love her. She's great.
oh, she's very good, and she
Yeah.
is a member of our organization, a longtime member of our organization. She lives about 3 blocks from me.
Oh,
In,
that's
in
wonderful. I've seen her in the Native Plant Society. Okay.
Yes, and she also writes articles for the National Quarterly Journal.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and then on April 1, we have a potluck dinner, and we'll have a presentation there.
Okay.
That's in person. That's not Zoom. The other 2 are Zoom.
When the meetings are in person, where are they held at?
Wherever we can find space,
Okay. So they
uh,
move around.
we try to move them around, but we've found that libraries now want to plan out way in advance what they have going on in the library.
Okay.
Uh, and we haven't been able to get space where we want to get it all the time. We've had it in Glen Ellen, which is sort of central to DuPage County.
That would be
A
nice.
couple times at the Glen Ellen Police Department, they have a community room that is a really nice environment. It's got 2 screens and it's kind of an intimate setting, but it can accommodate about 40 people.
Oh, that's very nice. Okay.
But
And then
we'll
go
try to
ahead.
find other locations so that we can maybe get one that's close to somebody's home.
Okay. The Glen Ellen location would be good for me. That sounds nice. And in January here, is there anything still that will be occurring this month?
No, not this month.
Okay.
Uh, but our chapter of Wild Ones is a partner in an organization called DuPage Monarch Project. And they have something special going on in March, and we'll be advertising that in our newsletter.
Okay.
Question came in on the Q&A if Ken wants to know if we've looked at the Helen Plum Library in Lombard.
Mm.
The answer is yes, somebody did check that out. It wasn't I, but that might be worth a follow-up too if it's being recommended. I know that the Lombard Organic Garden Club, or Garden Club, not Organic Gardener, just Garden Club, meets there. I'll make a note about that. Any other questions that anyone might have on Wild Ones, or things you're wondering about as a relatively new person to native plants?
Hi, my name is Susan, and I'm just learning about your organization. But is there a favorite plant or a good plant that grows in shade? Because or dappled sunlight, my yard has two huge trees and it doesn't get the direct or full sun. Yet I'd like to, add native plants. I do have some viburnum bushes in the yard, but are there a simple, easy plant to grow that likes shade or
Let me ask you, underneath your trees, do you have grass growing there?
barely? It's hard to get the grass to
So
grow.
even if it's even too shady for grass.
Yeah,
Okay. A
but
couple
there are
pots.
some parts of the yard that gets a little bit more sun,
Mhm.
but our neighbors have a lot of big trees, and that's also the issue.
One thing you might try is spring ephemerals, which simply means that these are plants that emerge before the leaves come out on trees, when the sunlight is actually hitting the ground.
Oh, okay.
And so things like wild geranium
Mm.
might work because that will move toward the edges where there's more sunlight. It'll kind of find where it likes. Well, like most native plants, they'll find where they like. Um, Spring Beauty, if you can get Spring Beauty, that comes out very early, and you can plant it right where the lawn grass is, and it'll come up, it'll bloom, and then it'll stop blooming about the time that the leaves come out on the trees. And then it goes away, and it doesn't matter that it's shady. It'll come back the next spring.
Oh, okay.
So that's another thing. It won't spread like lawn grass, but it's something you might try. So there's a couple, and if you look at any of the spring wildflowers in catalogs, they'll give you other ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Anybody else?
I've had really good luck with Virginia waterleaf in the shade, and that's really pretty too in the spring.
Yeah, and that will grow in
And a
less shade
clump.
too. It'll grow. In fact, if you have to almost be careful that it doesn't take over everything. But it is a cool plant, and it does flower, and the flowers look cool.
They are pretty. Mhm.
Well, it would be fine if it took over what little grass I can grow in the shade. I wouldn't
You
mind
you
that.
you might try a half a dozen different things and see what likes it the best.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other seed swaps planned for this spring?
No, we only do seed swaps that one in November. There may be other organizations that do that, but not that I'm aware of. You can buy seeds too uh, through mail order, and this is something that new people just starting out always ask: is it better to plant seed or plant plugs? And uh, they're both good, and I've done both. Seeds might take a lot longer to establish the plant, though. If you want instant plant, then you plant the plugs. But you can plant seeds and they germinate. If they don't germinate the first year, they may not even germinate the second or third year, but they might germinate later. And you'll get a plant and you'll wonder where it came from. I wonder if that's where my bee balm came from. But I didn't plant it where it's growing right now. But anyway, seeds are also used in large areas where you can scatter the seed. If you have an acre of land and you're trying to restore a prairie, it's economically better to plant seeds. But most homeowners don't have such a large area. And we don't recommend that you start out big. We recommend you start out small. Don't plant a 100 square foot garden thinking, oh, that's just 10 by 10. That's not very big. You might be surprised that it's a lot of work to get going. And it's better to plant a little bit every year. If you are getting rid of your lawn or changing just a corner of your lawn, just do a little bit at a time, and each year it can grow. But I like both seeds and plugs.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Apologies. Did you say a 10 by 10 would be biting off more than we could chew to start?
If it's your very first one, it
Yes.
might be.
Okay.
We do have presentations on getting started, how to get rid of lawn grass, then what to do. You can do 10 by 10. It's more work than what you think it is unless you've done it before.
Okay. Thank you. And those presentations would be on the local chapter's website?
We might have one. Oh, I don't know if we have one on ours, but they might be on the national YouTube channel. But you'd have to look. I don't really know.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what is the process of reaching out and connecting with someone in the chapter if we want to get some assistance on changing some of our yard into a native habitat? How do I do this?
You can contact me and I'll make sure it gets to the right person.
Okay.
And if you want, when we do our yard tours, a lot of times we'll include a yard that is just starting out, is not a finished yard.
Okay.
And we call these show me, help me yards, where people don't come to ask the homeowner questions. People come and the homeowner asks the questions of the people that attend.
That would be great. Okay.
What town do you live in?
I'm in Winfield.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a lot of really fine yards in Winfield. And people always willing to offer advice. Okay, I think I'm gonna wind this up before I lose my internet connection again. Thank you for those who stuck around for the Q&A. Again, I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do about the recording. I've got 3 recordings, but I might be able to splice them together. And then I'll put that on the website.
Mhm.
But thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank
And
you.
hope to see you in about a month.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great night.
You're welcome.